I've been replaying Death Stranding recently, and it's got me thinking why it is that I felt such a strong desire to return to it to begin with. I guess the main reason I'm talking about the game is because I remember when it came out, nobody seemed to like it. I remember a lot of reviewers and just other general content creators and random people on the internet were kind of complaining about it a lot.
What do you do with a game that's like two different halves? The story's great, universe, characters, and the actual gameplay loop, not that fun. Do not want to replay this another 40 plus hours.
Gameplay is tiresome, monotonous, and boring, with small bursts of excitement that you'll end up skipping anyways just to avoid playing the game longer than you have to.
I remember there being a lot of hype about the game as well. Obviously, it was a very strange game. Nobody really knew what it was about, what was even going on in any of its trailers, and there was this real aura of kind of mystery that Kojima was crafting around it. It was also coming off, right off the heels of Metal Gear Solid 5. So there was a lot of expectations for what Kojima was going to do with his next game without being tied to Konami as well. And when that finally happened, I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard. They were expecting this insane action game that was similar to Metal Gear Solid, but instead, they got Death Stranding. Now, I want to make it clear that this video is neither a review of Death Stranding or an argument against anyone that doesn't like it. This is instead my own personal thoughts and feelings on why this game for so many years has meant so much to me and remained such a thought-provoking experience to me all these years later. But that being said, I do just want to talk about why I feel a lot of people didn't like the game very quickly and very briefly. Because I think the biggest issue that a lot of people had was how slow to start this game was, and especially how difficult to understand it is in the beginning. It takes about 7-ish hours for the story to really kick off, and that is a lot to ask of anyone when playing a game. It's the equivalent of telling someone that a show gets good after 7 episodes, or that a film series gets good after 3 entries. Sometimes you can't expect people to just hope for a game to get better. And if you haven't liked a game after that long, maybe it's not for you, or in the case of Death Stranding, it's just about pushing forward. I'll be honest, I didn't like the game either when I first started it all those years ago, and I too really struggled to understand what was going on. But for some reason, I kept going. I looked past that introduction and looked past the lack of exposition and looked past that slow, methodical pace and just kept on keeping on. And but that's the question of this video and what I want to talk about, and that's why. Why did I keep on going? Why did I overlook all of that stuff? What took me from being someone that really didn't like Death Stranding to someone who now views the game in a completely different light, and even like gaming in a completely different light? Hell, I'd go so far to say that it both inspired me and helped me in life in the weirdest, most pretentious kind of way. I think the reason why I kept going despite the impossibly slow, confusing start was something that I never really thought about until my second playthrough. Because this time, when I've started the game, I'm not confused. I know what's going on with the story. I know what the lore is. I know what all the words mean. I know what these characters are talking about. And most importantly, I know that the game does get really interesting and really good eventually. So I'm less inclined to be annoyed that I've got to sit through all this content, and I can instead just take a back seat and just let the artistic design and the mood of the game carry me forward. because that's what Death Stranding is. First and foremost, it is a game that is always forcing you to push forward, to keep walking, to keep heading west, to keep heading towards your objective, to keep delivering, to keep finding new routes, and to most importantly, keep on keeping on. There's a cutscene in the game. Probably one of the most important cutscenes in the game, and it's when you meet Higgs for the first time. Now, for me, this was at about the 7-hour mark, and this cutscene is what leads into your first boss fight, and Higgs says, very famously,
"So how about it? Aren't you getting tired of the grind? Isn't this what you've been waiting for this whole time? A game over."
It's, Kojima being meta like he always does. But it also tells you something different. It tells you that Kojima himself and the people behind this game are aware of how the game is designed. They know that it's slow. They know that it's a grind to get to that point. And I think that speaks volumes because it's not a mistake. The game isn't designed to be entertaining and it happens to be boring. It's designed to be confusing from the get-go. It's designed to be slow. It's designed to be methodical, to prepare you for what's ahead, But on replay, I don't really view it like that. I feel like on my first playthrough, I really just wanted action and adventure and boss fights and gunfights and stealth missions like Metal Gear. But on replay, I'm sorry to tell you, Higgs, but no, I'm not tired of the grind. I love it. Before Death Stranding, I was obsessed with story in games. I would always buy a new game with the intent of just finishing the campaign, and that drove me to rushing games, to skipping content, to getting annoyed when I hit a roadblock that I was underleveled for or wasn't progressing fast enough for. And because of that rush to see the end of the game, I wasn't enjoying games enough. I was always thinking more so about the next game I was going to play, rather than what I was playing in the moment. I'm going to use the Assassin's Creed RPG games as a great example of this. In no way do I like those games. I mean, I like Origins, but those games have a very real grindy design problem. But at the time those came out, Assassin's Creed was one of my favourite franchises, and I played those games primarily for the story. Except in the RPG era of Assassin's Creed games, you are forced, not encouraged, forced to go out of your way to do all these side quests and grind in order to be able to progress the main story, because everything is gated behind XP. In this case, it's so Ubisoft could sell you back boosters and crafting materials. But I'm using it as just a quick example of how forcing your way through the main game without taking the time to just experience everything you have to offer can be a hindrance, because in those days, I would get angry that I couldn't just play the next story mission straight away. I never thought in my head, let's just take my time and just see what this game has to offer. Maybe if I was to replay them now, I'd think something different. I'm probably not going to because I'm so jaded with that franchise. But very simply, that's what I'm getting at. The idea that Death Stranding just taught me over its 30, 40, 50, 60 hour story, however long it is, I can't remember, to slow down and to just keep moving forward, to just make that delivery, to just take it all in. It's really interesting to me just how much focus the devs put into just making you feel alone and part of this world. I tried to play some music during a delivery, and because it was a main story mission, they don't let you access the in-game music library, so you are forced to just walk in silence. All you hear is the wind, Sam's footsteps, and the occasional time fall or BT sound effect, or BB crying. You are just simply forced to experience the game's world. There's no room for distraction, because if you make a distraction, you're going to fall over and lose all your cargo, and it's all going to get damaged, and you're going to be annoyed, you know? That's not to say you're completely alone on your journey, though, because you're always connected to these other players on the same journey as you, because, like, you know, you'll find ladders that other people have placed, or bridges, or just items that other players have used to complete their journey that you can utilize. It's almost like Dark Souls, you know, this shared journey where people have left you summon signs or little messages and tips to help guide you on your journey. It allows you to have this sense of belonging and community, even though most of the game is just you and whatever it is you're delivering. And, you know, I've talked about how all of this was intentionally designed, all this slow grind of the early game, how the devs are very aware that it exists. The meta comment might be meta, it might be Kojima, but it is a truthful statement to say that it is intentional, how slow the start of the game is. And I actually think it makes the rest of the game so much better, because once you start getting to these harder deliveries and these more epic scope things with the BTs and the beach and stuff like that, you are a bit more inclined to be excited by it, because instead of just walking across a field now, you're climbing a mountain, and you know, you've got these boss fights to deal with and you've got these things to do. But I don't think you'd appreciate them as much if you were just thrown in and fighting the giant squid monsters from the get-go. The slow pace of the game really makes you just stop and focus and think about what you're doing. It draws this really emotional response from you, especially when it's a first-time playthrough, and especially when your expectations are so much different from what you get, because it is about focus, plain and simply. It's almost like the art of focus. It's like the devs are trying to force you to focus so much that you feel like you have all the time in the world to do these deliveries. There's only a few deliveries so far in my playthrough that have time limits, for example, and even then those time limits are like 45 minutes for a journey that you can do in 10, which only adds to the accomplishment, because you're tricked into thinking, oh, I just delivered this nuclear bomb really quickly, you know, when in reality it was always going to be easy, you know? It just makes you not feel desperate to see where the story goes, because your mind is just so focused on the journey that you're not trying to rush the process. You know the process might take a while, but because of how atmospheric and well designed the world is, you don't really feel like you're missing out on anything. Instead, you're spending too much time worrying about your balance and worrying about how to dodge the BT that's in your path, worrying about how you're going to get over that really rocky terrain, how you're going to get your bike through that tiny canyon, always thinking about how it is you're going to actually get to your objective. I guess what I'm saying is that it just taught me to have a whole new appreciation for not just games or gaming as an art form, but storytelling in general, and to stop worrying about what comes next or what the next exciting thing is going to be, and to just sit in the moment, to focus on what's happening right now, and to appreciate what it is you're part of rather than the overall big picture. So yeah, that's my thoughts on why I keep coming back to Death Stranding. I hope you enjoyed this little video. I'm trying something new here. This was all unscripted, and I just wanted to ramble and talk about why it is that this stupid little game means so much to me without writing a 10,000 page script on all its mechanics and game design features and story aspects and, you know, all of that stuff. I just wanted to talk about what was important to me in the moment. And maybe I'll do a few more of these videos where I just kind of ramble. I don't know. We'll see how this one does. But regardless, I had fun chatting about Death Stranding today. And if you enjoyed listening to me waffle on, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Comment your thoughts down below on what you think about Death Stranding, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me. I'd love to know. Also, if you for some reason want to know whenever I upload a video, go ahead and smash that bell icon so that you never miss out. And if you for some reason really want to help me out, feel free to go ahead and check out my debut novel, Resurgence of Gaia. It would mean the world to me. The link is in the description below. But anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.